Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start by reciting the Namo Tassa and refuges for those who like to join. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddhang Saranang Gacchami. Dhammang Saranang Gacchami. Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. Dutiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami. Dutiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami. Dutiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. Tatiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami. Tatiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami. Tatiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. Welcome, friends, to the day 4 of this year-end retreat. And so today I want to continue on in our discussion of the mind, the mental process, and kind of where we left off yesterday. So we've been covering the 5 aggregates of clinging, or sometimes called the 5 groups of grasping. That means we grasp at these aspects of our body and mind and tightly cling and identify with them, that cause us to get entangled with the web of karma, and to especially the negative thoughts that come back to bring us a lot of suffering. And so yesterday we were talking about the consciousness and how the 5 aggregates actually arise each moment of consciousness or sensory impingement. The 5 aggregates sort of come together like the 5 fingers, coming together in a moment of hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, and thinking, and then cease. And they only arise just for a nanosecond and cease, but they keep repeating over and over again, millions of times within a second or so. And so it appears that they are kind of continuous. We don't see the impermanence of them. And along with these 5 aggregates, each time they arise with each moment of seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, touching, and thinking, the sense of self or I arises with it. And so this sense of I or self appears to be something that's continuous, and something that appears to be like it's really us. It's really me. This idea that's in the mind. So, and some people take that to be their soul. This idea of self or I, that after death it might go to a heaven to live in eternity, or go to some other realm, to hell, or someplace in between to live for eternity. So these are some types of religious beliefs, but the Buddha didn't really ascribe to those kind of beliefs of being a permanent entity and so on. But apart from that, I wanted to go in and discuss why it's important to see this impermanence in the first aspect of the meditation. So today I want to focus on a little bit more on the meditation practice. We already have been doing that, but in yesterday we started looking at impermanence. So especially the impermanence of our consciousness and the experiences that we have, and how we, get caught in these habit patterns. Now, yesterday I gave the analogy of our consciousness like a roll of film, a movie roll of film that's made up of individual frames. And when that roll of film is passed through the movie projector, and the projector is shining on the light, then that roll of film is running quite fast through the projector, and you don't see the spaces between the frames, individual picture frames. So it's run together, and you see a solid, continuous scene or movement. So that's what we are seeing with our mind, because actually, we are seeing a projection of our mind. And I mentioned this yesterday, but it's an important thing to understand, especially in terms of understanding illusion or delusion, how we take things to be real that are in fact kind of illusory. Now, the sense of self appears to be real because we don't see the spaces in between the moments of hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, and touching and thinking, because of grasping, they're run together. We're continually reacting to these objects, holding on to them, and with attachment and so on. So we don't really see them in their true nature. Now, there's another analogy that is useful to keep in mind, that of the coloring book. Now, I think you all know what a child's coloring book is. For children, a coloring book, they have pages and they have many dots on a page. And looking at the dots themselves, you don't really see any particular image there. But then the instructions are to take a red crayon and connect these certain dots, take a green crayon, connect certain other dots, take another color and connect some other dots, and then you get the picture of Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck or any object. And so it's because they connect the dots on the page, then that image comes out. So that's like the perception. I was talking about the perceptions. Our mind creates these perceptions out of what are just empty material vibrations coming through the senses. Again, I'm not talking about the material world out there. We're talking about the mind, because that's really where we live, and how our mind projects the world. So each moment of hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, and thinking is like just a dot arising within awareness. But because the mind immediately starts connecting these dots, then we recognize an image and bring in the past and future in our loves and hates, desires and aversions, and it triggers off all kinds of thoughts. So that's how we get trapped in the mind and do things that we regret later, or that bring us, painful effects. So in the Vipassana meditation, and yesterday I defined Vipassana as being seeing reality as it is, or seeing the mental process broken up into its parts. Instead of seeing things as wholes, we see things as just momentary moments of consciousness, coming and going, or things broken up into feeling, perception, volition, consciousness. And So in Vipassana meditation, by speeding up the rate of perception, gradually we can see this rapid fire or very quick succession of moments of hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, and thinking. So normally our perception is very slow because we're holding on to things. I think I mentioned this also yesterday. So we have to speed up the rate of perception. And the way you do that is by expanding the field of awareness. Now, normally when people practice meditation, they focus their mind on just one particular object, such as the breathing. And then they want to keep focusing on that breathing until basically it kind of fills up their whole mind, and they lose awareness of other things around them. And that's called absorption. But in Vipassana meditation, we don't want to do that specifically. But we use the breathing to get centered initially, as I've already mentioned several times. And then we keep the awareness open to notice other things. So you can still be aware of your breathing going in and out. Once you develop concentration, the meaning of concentration, meaning that the meditation object stays in front of the mind, but it doesn't shut out other things. The object is still in front of the mind, but you can still see things coming and going around it. So this is called momentary concentration. And this is ideally the state of mind that we want to cultivate in practicing this kind of insight meditation, or the Vipassana meditation, seeing the flow of impermanence. And then, that's where this idea of, when it builds up speed, then, you're seeing so many different sensations coming and going because you're not holding on to them. And that's when they become just like dots. And you can build up that speed. You can notice so many different things coming and going when the mind has gotten calm and focused. And it's just like, turning up the power of a microscope. If you turn up the power of a microscope to, 500 or more, you can, notice all the atoms and protons and neutrons, in a specific, little object, where you couldn't do that when, you were just looking through the microscope at a power of, 5, for example. So the practice of the development of concentration is like turning up the power of a microscope. The longer you can hold the attention on the breathing body without being distracted by the hindrances. And so it comes to a point where you're just noticing these momentary little blips, like blips on a radar screen of body, feeling, sound, thoughts, urges that are just coming and going one after another. And you're not connecting the dots. So you're just noticing something and letting it go. You notice something else, you let it go. You notice something else, you let it go. You don't allow the mind to get stuck on any particular sensation or sound or thought. But you have to deliberately speed up that rate of perception so that the rate of noticing, so this mind doesn't have time to create the pictures of those objects and bring in the memory of them. And it's similar also, there's another analogy of a train going out of the station. So, in Europe, they have, so many train stations in all the cities and so on. And here in the States, not so many, but anyway, I'm sure everyone has seen trains, especially when it's leave the station, it's going slow. or if a train is going very slow, you can see each individual train car. And you can see the little coupling, that joins each train car. And you can say, oh, that train car is, carrying cars. That train car is carrying cows. That train car is carrying oil tanks. And, you can see each one quite clearly when it's going slowly. So that's the way our mind works normally, because its rate of perception is slow. It sees these individual objects as, being separate individual objects. But when you speed up the rate of perception, it's like when the train speeds up, and the train is going very fast, you can no longer really see the space between the train cars. They get blurred because the train is going so fast that you can no longer even kind of recognize the cars as being specific ones, because they're moving so fast. So, and sometimes the cars could just be look like they're just in a straight line with no space in between them at all. So that's what happens when you speed up the rate of perception. You can no longer make out the individual objects. So therefore, the past and the future, the identification of the objects is not pulled back into from the unconscious mind, is not pulled up from the unconscious, to distract us. And there's another analogy of an airplane propeller. I'm just giving these different analogies because they can help to, if you can't understand one, maybe you'll understand another. So an airplane propeller, the old kind, you have 5 spokes on a propeller, when it's going around. So when the plane is parked and the engine is off, you can see all, 4 or 5 spokes of the propeller. But when the engine starts, if you've ever sat in the airplane or seen when the engine starts, the propeller starts going around. And as it starts spinning around, you don't see the space between the individual blades of the propeller. And if you're sitting in the airplane looking out the window, because I've done this several times on flights, and the propeller gets up at full speed, it looks like the propeller has actually vanished. It's like, what's flying this airplane? You can't even see the propeller. And so similarly, when you speed up the rate of perception to a very high degree in the meditation, then the objects also disappear, as I was already mentioning. And sometimes, it can feel like this empty space if you really are able to maintain that state of awareness long enough without the mind, grasping or intervening thoughts or hindrances. Then you can experience a state, something like emptiness. Things seem to disappear. And there's just a very deep silence, but there's still awareness. But it's like awareness of nothing, but awareness of everything and nothing at the same time. But, so this is a transmutation of the consciousness from ego consciousness to a more expanded awareness. And so in that experience also, the sense of self vanishes, because the sense of self exists in direct proportion to the amount of attention or attachment or aversion that we're giving to any particular object. And so when those objects dissolve, the sense of self also dissolves with it. And There's another, and did I give the analogy of the knower, the known, and the knowing yesterday? Not yesterday. I did? Not yesterday. Okay. So there's another very useful analogy. When you get to that point, or during the meditation, when you come to a point where you're able to see, many things coming and going without the mind, getting caught on any of them, then there's three aspects to every experience. There's the known, the knower, and knowing. Now imagine I had a stick here. There was a stick, and I had the two ends of a stick. And I have the known on one end. The known are the objects coming through the senses, like we hear a sound, smell, taste, touch, and we're saying, oh, that's a dog, that's an airplane, that's a tree, that's this and that. That's the known. It's your identification of objects. And over on the other side is the knower, which is the me, the I. And in between the knower and the known is knowing, or pure awareness. But normally we don't have any idea about the knowing, because our mind is always jumping directly over the knowing to grasp the object. So whenever we have sensory impingement, the mind is immediately going to recognize it, and we don't see that sort of space in between. There's no space, because the mind is in such a rush to identify the object and react to it. So we don't know, that's why we don't know anything about awareness, really. So in the Vipassana meditation, you train yourself to let go of the known. That means whenever you hear, see, taste, smell, touch something, you're just recognizing it as, just hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, but you're not creating objects out of them. You're experiencing them as just a pure vibration, just a vibration of material vibration, sound vibration, visible vibration, odor vibration, taste vibration, or a tactile vibration. And you've short-circuited the brain, so to speak. You short-circuit the creation of perceptions in the brain. I was talking about the brain process before, and the synapses and so on that pass on the information. But anyway, so when you're letting go of the known, as you let go of the known, and you're no longer getting carried away in the known, then what is left? The stick is still there, and the knower is here, but there's no known. So as you let go of the known, more of the knowing arises in the mind. You start to actually feel awareness. You actually get a sense of that kind of present moment vibration, because it's no longer covered over by the known. Again, bear with me if it sounds a little bit intellectual or so, but this is a direct experience that people experience in meditation. So you let go of the known, and then you start to, the knower is still there, but it's in a weaker state. There's still the idea, the sense, okay, I'm meditating, but it's not very strong. But more of the knowing arises. And as you maintain that awareness, because there's no objects to cling to, the rest of the knower starts to dissolve. Again, because it's nothing solid in your mind in the first place. It's just an illusion that's created. So the knower disappears, and then you can have an experience of just this pure knowing, where there's no knower and no known. And that's the deepest level of what we call pure awareness. Now, it only will last for a few moments normally for most people, and then the knower and then will come back, because sometimes people get frightened actually, because it feels like you're going to be sucked down a black hole, or you're going to maybe go mad, or you won't be able to come back. So people get afraid about that. When they enter deep meditation, a lot of people get afraid because it's like the fear of death. It's almost like dying, but you're not going to die in this state. But it can feel like that, and that's why people can get frightened or scared, and it jerks them back into thinking. And why people say, "Oh, meditation is dangerous." Now, it's not dangerous. It's the most blissful and wonderful experience you can imagine if you have prepared yourself. So that's why this experience doesn't happen right off the bat very quickly for most people. It's a very gradual process. But in that experience, you understand that the true nature of suffering is that sense of self and the I that's holding on tightly, and that delusion of the I, and it's clinging to the objects. So in another little analogy about the ego is, the ego is like an ice cube floating in water. Okay, let's say you have an ice cube floating in water. Now, the ice cube is also made of water, isn't it? An ice cube is just frozen water. But you see the ice cube floating in the bowl of water, and it thinks it's different from the water, or even you think the ice cube is different from the water. But when the water melts, when the ice cube melts, then it becomes water, right? And you can no longer say, "Give me my ice cube back." Or, "Where did my ice cube go?" It simply became the water. So the ego, when the ego dissolves, it just dissolves into that ocean of present moment awareness, into that expanded present moment awareness. And it's a very liberating feeling. And so, but again, that doesn't last very long in the beginning, but you can train yourself in meditation to stay in that sense. And it's a very healing vibration. It's a very healing vibration because there's no separation there. And it's the whole body-mind system has been integrated and is totally integrated and functioning in a harmonious vibration. It's the ego that's always trying to fight against us, right? The ego, because of its bad habits and craving, it does things to harm the body. So a lot of times people's mind work against them and work against their body because they're taking substances or they're doing things unmindfully that cause accidents and harm to the body. So, people are living out of harmony with the laws of nature, even without, living by being disconnected from the body. Then, we do things that harm the body. So in this state of total integration, where the mind is, that ego has subsided, and you can still function, but in a different way. But anyway, that's only going to happen when one attains maybe the final stages of enlightenment. But for the average person, for all intents and purposes, at least by practicing this form of meditation, then you get those direct insights into how illusion has been created within the mind, and actually that we've been tricked. we've been tricked by our mind, and we've been tricked by ignorance. Now, in that state of awareness, that's a state of happiness, because in the state of present moment awareness, there's no past and there's no future. And all problems are problems of the past and the future. Whenever you think about the past and the future, there's usually clinging or fear. You didn't like the past, so you're projecting that into the future, or you like the future and you're afraid you're not going to get that again, or you liked the past, what you did, and you want to bring it back, but we can't bring the past back. The world is a dynamic, flowing process. As one Greek philosopher said, you can't step into the same river twice. So no two experiences are the same, and you can't really go back and recreate the past. So all problems that we have are problems of thinking about the past and the future with worry, anxiety, fear, or greed, and so on. So living in the present moment. A lot of people say, how can we live in the present moment or live without an ego? Well, a lot of people do. The Buddha lived for 45 years perfectly fine without an ego, and basically the mind being in the present moment. So it's hard to understand that. But as you practice meditation and you start to experience these states of mind longer, and you start to live more in the present moment, then one can, appreciate that a lot more. Now, there's one other sort of little analogy of the meditation process. When you're doing this kind of meditation, and you have that connection to the breathing, and you're aware of the breathing body, sitting in, breathing in, sitting, breathing out, sitting, and then you're hearing and feeling these moments arising and passing away without the mind reacting, then it's like being in an empty house. So you bring up the idea of being in an empty house. So if you can imagine that, your house, there's nobody in the house to answer the call, knocking at the doors or windows. So that self has subsided, and there's just this awareness. So that's an analogy about the mind. But there's a sensitive microphone in the house. So the sensitive microphone is the awareness that knows what is going on in the house, but doesn't know. That means it hears and sees what is going on, but yet it doesn't know. It doesn't, it doesn't form concepts, or can't call the police or something. It's just like a security camera, or just a sensitive microphone anyway, that can hear what's going on, but doesn't react. So this is the kind of experience that you get in the deeper meditation when you're practicing this level of developing, the insight in the mindfulness practice. So when we do our meditation a little bit later on, if you happen to get to that state where you're having a good awareness, then you can bring that idea to mind of being this empty house where the ego is not functioning and things are just coming and going through the senses. It's a very peaceful, kind of experience. And another little image you can keep in mind is that of the spider web. Really, like, our nervous system is like a spider web. You all know what a spider web is. It's attached to different things. And so our nervous system, every cell in the body is attached to the nervous system. And when anything touches that nervous system, there's that web vibrates. So actually, our body has what I call the inner internet. Our nervous system is like our inner internet. People talk about the outer internet. Well, our body and brain has its own internet. And any part of the body can kind of communicate with the brain and other parts through this internet. And so in the meditation, when you get to that point where you have a good awareness, it's like just feeling the vibrations of that web. And each time there's hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching, or thinking, it's vibrating that web a bit. In our awareness, the mind is like the spider that's sitting out at the edge of the web. And then when the web is, vibrating, the regular spider will, run in and try to gobble up that insect or wrap it up. But in meditation, we keep the spider at the edge of the web. And we're just listening to the vibrations of the web without the ego going in and trying to change anything. And by holding that long enough, then the sense of I will then start to vanish. Okay, now I wanted to also begin talking about a very important aspect of, why we're doing this meditation. The purpose of doing this meditation. There's a reason for it. And because we've been trapped in our mind because of ignorance, by not knowing the truth about the mind or the world, we've allowed ourselves to get trapped in it. And when we're born, a young baby doesn't know any better, and it learns from its parents, right? But most parents don't understand the mind either, and they've lived their life in a normal way, and we've been told to believe that the world is real and all these other things, and to build up the ego and the sense of self. Now, of course, we need to do that to really function in this normal kind of world, but still we haven't been taught really what the mind is, and or taught how it works. This world that we're in, most of much of the science is interested primarily in the external world, but the Buddha wasn't so preoccupied with the external world. He was preoccupied with the internal world, as I mentioned in that little story about the Deva, and wanting to know how the world arises within our mind. So, we haven't been taught about the mind, so we become trapped in the sensory, in the trap of the senses. And you can see that in the commercialization and so on. All these advertisements, right, on TV or on the internet, they're saying, oh, you can't live without this object, you can't live without this thing. And they're always updating everything, right, to make it faster, to make it whatever. And people are never satisfied. And so the whole commercialized world is, sort of antithetical to the understanding of Dhamma. And it's getting us more and more trapped in our mind, thinking that we need the external world to be happy. And then that's why we go on getting more and more sensual desires and getting caught up in the push and pull between like and dislike, pleasure and pain. And then doing the karma, actually creating the karma. That means doing the negative actions of people killing, stealing, lying, pillaging, plundering, raping, doing all kinds of negative actions in order to satisfy their desires or to eliminate any threat to our desires. People break these basic moral guidelines. And then we suffer the consequences of it. And we become dependent on the external world for our happiness. We've lost that connection, the natural connection to the present moment, that natural connection to the body. You know, as I mentioned, that the baby had that when they were first born, but then they gradually lose that. And no one ever told them to keep it, you know. My parents never told me, hey, you should, maintain your connection to the body. Don't lose that. It's a very good thing to do, you know, to be able to come back to the present moment. Whoever told us that? Nobody. And so no one knows about it. And so everyone's grown up to just think that the whole world is out there. Of course, except for some spiritual types of persons, of course, and saints and so on. Or yogis. But so anyway, we become trapped in the mind, or actually conned and duped, so to speak, to become trapped in the mind and trapped in the ego. And so the Buddha saw that whole condition. And so he devised this very powerful and very clever practice of the Vipassana meditation to get out of that, to get out of that trick. So we've been tricked into delusions. We've been tricked into thinking the external world is all there is, and we just live for the external world and eat, drink, and be merry, and do anything you want, and get addicted to things, and then causing so much suffering for ourselves and for others and for the whole world. You know, and the idea about world peace is kind of an illusion, because I've gone to some world peace conferences in Copenhagen this many years ago, and you know, people's idea of world peace is that everybody believes, if everybody believes the way we do, there would be world peace. So like, if everyone was a Christian, there would be world peace. If everyone was a Muslim, there would be world peace. If everyone was any other religion, there would be world peace. And so they try to force other people to believe believe what they do, and then there would be world peace. Or capitalism and communism, right? Communists thought if everyone could be a communist, the world would be a perfect place. And capitalists think if everybody would have the capitalist ideology, the world would be a perfect place. But we know that that's not true. And the whole world is not going to believe the way we do. So therefore, world peace only comes first by the individual attaining peace within their own mind, to live peacefully within themselves. Now, I just want to briefly mention something before we finish this talk about this process of how we've been tricked into the mind. So actually, this practice of Vipassana meditation is kind of another trick. It's tricking ourselves out of the mind, or it's tricking the ego out of itself in order to liberate itself. And so that's why the Buddha developed this system of Vipassana by speeding up the rate of perception, by developing concentration and insight, and perceiving the flow of impermanence. As I've already mentioned, speeding up the rate of perception, where the illusion of objects disappears and the ego disappears, we can experience that pure awareness that's really our birthright, that pure awareness, which is the intrinsic and natural condition of our consciousness. Now, see, even scientists hardly know this. As even science, because it's interested in the external, most of them don't know anything about what is pure awareness, or even how the mind operates on its deeper levels. I mean, it does know that a little bit, but it doesn't know much about pure awareness. I never heard a scientist talk about pure awareness. So, that's why it takes somebody like the Buddha to really, or other mystics, to be able to use meditation to discover the truth. Now, modern science relies on instruments and gadgets, microscopes, telescopes, and all these other things, MRIs, and all these things are wonderful. I'm not saying they're not, but these are just instruments. And why haven't they tuned into their mind? Why haven't they realized that the mind is the greatest instrument? The mind is more powerful than an atom smasher. Because our mind can smash the atom too, but they have to have these great big electron microscopes to smash the atom. When in meditation, when the ego dissolves, that's like smashing the atom from the psychological point of view, of course. But of course, they're not gonna, they'll say, well, that's a bunch of mumbo jumbo or something. Or they say, well, what's the use of it? You can't make a Mercedes Benz out of that or something. I don't know. Anyway, don't get me wrong. I'm not, saying, but so anyway. So there's a process called craving, grasping, and becoming. If you study the Buddhist teaching on the dependent origination, there's a cycle that the mind goes through called craving, grasping, and becoming. And this is how we create our habits and make them stronger. Or with each moment of contact, there arises an initial desire. But if we can, if we keep clinging to that object, that desire will turn into what is called grasping. That means it's a stronger type of desire. It's like more and more thoughts about the object. And then at some point you come to a decision. Am I going to take this object, or am I going to get away from this object? And so you make a decision and then you act upon it. And that's called becoming. And it's called becoming because it makes the habit become stronger. Every time you exercise a habit or repeat a habit of thought or action, as I've already mentioned before, it strengthens these neural pathways in the brain and nervous system, and they become stronger. And the only way you can break them is by developing this kind of mindfulness in which you're able to stop with the becoming. So when, ordinarily when you're just sitting around, you might have a desire, oh, I think I'll go to the refrigerator and eat something. Now, if you just give in to that and say, yeah, I'm gonna go, and you go there and then satisfy, yourself with whatever it was, a chocolate cake or a glass of wine or something, then the next time that comes, you'll do it again, without thinking about it. And each time you give in and do that, these habits become stronger. But instead, let's say, if that desire to come, you have a desire to go eat something, if you can be mindful and say, well, it's just a desire, I don't need to eat anything now, I just ate 3 hours ago, and and you forget about it, and you go do something else. So you weakened that habit just a little bit, especially when you see the benefit of not giving in and going to eat or something else. Or let's take a more specific example, like in meditation, common thing in meditation. You're meditating and you have some pains, or maybe there's a strong itch on your head. And so you see this desire to scratch the itch. Now, normally you would probably give into it and just itch because you think it's no big deal, just itch. But every time you do that, you're strengthening the idea that that itch is real and that you are real and that you don't like that itch. And so that will become a stronger thought and habit in your mind. And then each time the itch comes, you're going to be doing this or doing this. And you're going to do that your whole life, just constantly being, itching and moving around and looking at this and that. Okay, yeah, people do that. But that's why they're very restless and they can't get any deeper peace of mind. So that initial craving, in meditation, we try to observe that initial urge to do something and then contemplate it. And then we let go, we don't let it build into grasping. But if you don't have mindfulness, that initial craving turns into grasping. You start thinking, yes, I really need to do this. I really have to itch that scratch, or I have to move now, or you have a thought to let me end the meditation early and go do something else. Then you give in and you say, yeah, I really shouldn't have stopped my meditation, and later on, we do this quite often. If we don't have mindfulness, that initial craving, which doesn't really do much, is not that harmful. It's the grasping, when you grasp that craving and you build it up, go on thinking about it, justifying it, and then come to a decision. And then you do it. Now, even with the grasping, you can decide at the last moment before you've raised up your hand, scratch, or maybe you're going to slap a fly that landed on you. You can say, oh, no, I don't want to kill that fly. And you put your hand down. Then at least you haven't committed that karma of killing. So anyway, just very simply, that's this process of craving, grasping, and becoming, because it's that becoming which creates the karma. And as I mentioned before, once you've done something, you can't really take it back. So in meditation practice, that's what we're also training ourselves to observe. When you're in this state of awareness, you can feel those contacts and you can see that urge to want to move. You can see the urge to want to look. You can see the urge to want to think about something. And you just notice the urge. Instead of thinking about the object that caused the urge, you just be aware of urging, or wanting. And not to turn that into the grasping. And then that object will basically vanish. But that's why it's important to have that deep mindfulness, and when to feel those contacts and those initial wantings or desires that arise, you apply your wisdom and understanding and not allow that to turn into the grasping. That means the further thinking about it, and then the actual doing of some karmic action. Anyway, we'll probably talk more about that later, and tomorrow being the last day of one of the last of the next day of the retreat, we're going to start talking about how to practice in the daily life. Okay, so I think I just wanted to, finish this kind of talk about the meditation practice in case you get to that point where you have a deep state of awareness. Because a lot of people get to a good state of awareness and they think, well, what's next? Okay, I'm hearing all these things coming and going, but they can also kind of get bored with that. So you have to keep, in meditation, we keep a forward edge of the practice going, in order to, speed up that rate of impermanence even more and more, and to develop that expanded awareness, and then work on this, seeing the knower, the known, work on letting go of the known, and then the knower, and then, going deeper like that. So it's a continuous forward momentum of the meditation, rather than getting caught and stagnating and then just wondering what's going on or something. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a few minutes break and come back. We'll do a few stretches and then the meditation.
Bante, you have to turn on the microphone. Unmute yourself. Unmute. Mark, can you unmute Bante?
Just feel the subtle sensations in the hands and fingers. Just remember standing, 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 just letting go of your thoughts, keeping the mind grounded in the body. On the next in breath, push up on the toes and raise the arms up this way, facing the hands toward each other, and stretch up. Out breath, come back down, arms to the side, heels to the floor. Use the breath to help lift up the body. In breath. Out. Once more, in. Out. Just keep feeling the body and subtle sensations. The clothing touching the skin. Remember standing, standing, standing. Okay, next we'll do side bending using one arm at a time. So on an in-breath, raise your left arm up. And keep your fingers and arms straight close to the head. On the out breath, bend over your right side as far as you comfortably can. Try to keep the arm and fingers straight. In breath, lift up. And 2 more times to the same side, out breath. In breath up. Out. On the out breath, lower that arm. Next in breath, raise the other arm. Out breath to the left. In. Out. The out breath, lower the arm. Relax. Close the eyes. Feel the subtle sensations, pulsation, feet pressing the floor, arms and hands at the sides, the head on top. It's the present moment awareness grounded in the body. Body is the true home or resting place for consciousness. And now we'll do the head turning from right to left. On the in-breath, turn the head to the right. Look over your right shoulder, although you can keep the eyes closed. And turning 180 degrees back to the left on the out breath. Let's concentrate into the neck vertebrae. In-breath to the right. Out breath left. In breath right. Out left. On the in breath, let the head stop in the middle, just relax, and just feel the whole body. Feel all those subtle sensations. Start to feel sensations in all those different parts of the body, your feet, hands, shoulders, head. All points in between, being that activated life force. The present moment awareness grounded in the body. Okay, let's come back to our seats for the sitting awareness. make it less light. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, friends, so try to get comfortable on your seat. You're keeping the back and the head in a straight line. Feel the natural inward curve of the lower spine. Just keep your hands comfortably, one on top of the other on your lap or on your legs. Try not to move your hands during the whole meditation period. Just gently close your eyes. First of all, just feel the body grounded to the seat. Feel the weight of the body, the buttocks, the feet pressing the seat or floor. And feel the weight of the arms hanging from the shoulders. Feel the hands and fingers touching. And feel the head balanced on top of the neck. Feel your lips touching together. Feel the tongue inside the mouth, where the tongue may touch your teeth. Feel the skin stretched over the face. Subtle little prickly sensations on the face. And feel the hair where it comes out of your scalp, on top of the head. And let the awareness kind of rest on the eyes. Feel the eyes in the socket. And feel the eyelids stretched over the eyeballs. And feel the subtle eye movement, the blood pulsing in the capillaries of the eyes. Sort of gaze into the eyeballs. You might see some light or color or an image, or maybe just black darkness. From that point behind the eyes, open up the awareness to feel that outline of the body. Feel the shoulders below, the hands, legs, and the feet. Just try to hold that outline of the sitting body in the mind's eye. Then again, begin some deep, slow breathing to feel that dynamic expanding and contracting of the breathing process. Drawing the air from the lower lung up to the top. Hold it in a few seconds. Allow the oxygen to get into the bloodstream. And feel the relaxing contraction of the out breath. Feeling the last bit of air go out of the lungs. And just continue with that breathing, cultivating this mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Again, we're going to count the breaths from 1 to 10 to try to develop a more precise concentration on the breathing process. Try to continue to take some deeper breaths to feel it. With the next expanding in breath, mentally count 1. Feel the brief pause. With the contracting out breath, count 1. Feel the last bit of air go out of the lung. The next expanding in breath, 2. Out breath, 2. In breath, 3. Out breath, 3. In 4. Out 4. In 5. Out 5. In 6. Out 6. In 7. Out 7. In 8. Out 8. In 9. Out 9. In 10. Out 10. Now just continue the counting. Just let the breathing return to its uncontrolled, shorter or irregular rhythm. Continue to feel it. Just imagine you're looking down through a microscope, turning up the power of a microscope. Notice those subtler, expanding and contracting sensations. The feeling of the clothing rubbing against the skin of the stomach, rib cage, or chest as it expands and contracts. Make that the main focus of your undivided attention, concentrated awareness. And specifically be alert for the beginning, the middle, and the end of each in-breath. The beginning, the middle, and end of each out-breath. As the in-breath starts, it lasts a second or two, it stops. The out-breath begins, lasts a second or two, stops. The first part you feel in the abdomen, the middle part you feel in the rib cage, the end part you may feel in the upper chest. Same with the out-breath, contraction in the stomach, the middle, the upper chest collapsing. And feel the brief pause between the breaths. When the in-breath stops, there's a brief pause. When the out-breath begins. When the out-breath stops, there's a brief pause. When the in-breath begins. Just tune into that cycle. And seeing impermanence, the impermanence of each breath. It begins, lasts a second, stops. Or it arises and vanishes. The out-breath arises and vanishes. In the brief pauses between the breaths, feel the outline of the sitting body. This breathing is occurring within the larger body. or even while feeling the breath, be able to notice some other sensations on the body around the breathing. Which also just come and go. You might even feel the heart beating behind the breathing. So many different little sensations you can notice coming and going within that breathing awareness. And just begin gradually just expanding awareness a bit. Maintain that outline of the body with the breathing in the middle. In sitting, out, sitting. Turning up the power of the mental microscope. Bring it into clear focus. Notice more and subtler sensation. Might feel blood pulsing in the arteries, little itchy sensations, tingling sensation, feet, the hands, the head. The breathing is always there in the middle. If you hear any sounds, it's just sound vibrations arising and vanishing. The sound of this voice, any other sounds in your room. Don't try to look for them. They'll naturally just come and go through awareness. The breathing awareness. Just try to just sort of feel, imagine this body inside the nervous system. All those sensations, vibrations of the nervous system. Of course, at the same time, be alert for thoughts and trying to sneak up into the mind. Just notice them as thinking. Don't cling to the content of the thought. Just thinking, thought will vanish. Stay with the breathing. And just let the thoughts come and go in the back of the mind, like these announcements on the computer screen going across the top of the computer screen that you ignore. Just noticing more and more sensations or thoughts or sounds arising and vanishing. That space of the body breathing awareness. Especially be alert to how quickly certain sensations just arise and vanish so fast. Body movements, pulse, sound. Without following them, there's always something else to notice. Breathing, body sensation, sound, urge or thought. It's coming and going, rising and vanishing, breath by breath, moment by moment. It's the flow of impermanence. Breathing in, observing impermanence. Breathing out, observing impermanence. Each moment of sensation, sound, or thought is like a blip on a radar screen, like the dots in a child's coloring book. Don't connect the dots. Each dot, sensation, sound, thought arises independently, vanishing. Just letting go of the known. Begin to experience that subtle vibration of awareness. The knowing. Even the knower is just a bubble within the mind. Just letting go of the knower. It's become like an empty house with nobody home. There's a sensitive microphone in the house that knows. Just allow the knower to dissolve, like the ice cube dissolving in water. Even the feeling of a solid body may disappear. There's just sensation, sounds, thoughts arising and vanishing in empty space. Sabbi sankhara anicchati yada panyaya pasati atani bindati dukhi Yesamargo visuddhiya. All conditioned things, the five aggregates of this body, mind, and world are impermanent. They arise only to vanish away. When one sees this with the eye of wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to freedom. And thus spoke the Buddha. Now to finish the meditation, I invite you to join in chanting the word sadhu 3 times slowly, chanting on a long out breath. Sadhu. 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 You can continue on with your meditation if you're still well concentrated. Otherwise, I'm going to sign off of the Zoom broadcast now, and we'll meet all of you back tomorrow, 2 o'clock, the last day of the year.
Bhante. Bhante.
I don't want to disturb the others who are meditating.
Okay.